What happens when the car you laugh at hides a secret worth millions? The evening sun cast long shadows across the parking lot of a busy shopping plaza. Shoppers hurried past, but one man's old, dented sedan stood out. Its faded paint and squeaky door drew mocking glances, especially from the police officer patrolling nearby. Officer Daniels, tall and smug, leaned against his cruiser and smirked as the black man stepped out of the car. Marcus Williams, dressed simply in jeans and a t-shirt, locked the door and adjusted his keys. Didn't notice the officer's eyes sizing him up. "Hey," Daniels called, his voice loud enough for nearby people to hear. "You sure that thing still runs? Looks like it belongs in a junkyard." A couple of bystanders chuckled. Marcus glanced back at the car and then at the officer. "It gets me where I need to go," he replied calmly. The officer shook his head, circling the sedan with exaggerated steps. "Man, I didn't know people still drove antiques like this. What's the mileage? 500,000. Are you planning to Uber with it?" More laughter rippled through the small crowd that had gathered. Marcus kept his cool, though his jaw tightened. "Not every car is about showing off." Daniels raised an eyebrow, clearly amused. "No, but every car says something about its driver. And yours?" Its screams broke. The words stung, not because they were true, but because Marcus had heard them too many times before, people assuming his worth based on appearances. He adjusted his watch, a subtle but expensive piece no one seemed to notice. "You think you know me because of a car?" Marcus asked quietly. The officer smirked wider. "I don't have to think. This rust bucket says it all." He tapped the hood, and the crowd chuckled again. "Tell you what, if you ever buy something that isn't falling apart, maybe people will take you seriously." Marcus exhaled slowly, his eyes locking with Daniels. His calm demeanor hadn't cracked, but there was a flicker of something behind his gaze, something the officer wasn't ready for. Because what Officer Daniels didn't know was that Marcus owned not just one car, but an entire $20 million supercar collection hidden in a private garage. Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Bugattis, all his. And in just a few moments, the officer's mocking laughter would turn into stunned silence. They mocked his old car. But then the real engines roared. Officer Daniels leaned lazily against his cruiser, arms crossed, enjoying the small audience that had gathered. Every joke about Marcus's old sedan seemed to earn him more laughs. "You know what?" Daniels smirked. "If I were you, I'd leave this thing unlocked. No thief would bother stealing it anyway." The crowd chuckled. Marcus stayed calm, though a faint smile touched his lips. "Funny thing about appearances," he said softly. "They don't always tell the truth." Daniels rolled his eyes. "Oh yeah, what's the truth? That you're one repair bill away from walking everywhere?" Before Marcus could answer, a sleek black SUV pulled into the lot. The tinted windows slid down, and a sharply dressed man leaned out. "Mr. Williams," he called, "the garage is ready. Do you want us to bring them out now?" The crowd turned, murmurs rising. Marcus nodded. "Yes, bring them out." Within minutes, the quiet parking lot was filled with the unmistakable roar of engines. One by one, gleaming supercars rolled in. First, a cherry-red Ferrari, then a silver Bugatti, then a neon-green Lamborghini. Each polished machine gleamed under the fading sunlight, their engines growling like lions unleashed. Gasps echoed through the crowd. Phones shot up, recording the spectacle. People who had laughed seconds ago now stood frozen, jaws hanging open. Daniel's smirk vanished as the cars lined up neatly in front of Marcus. It wasn't just one or two. It was an entire fleet. Marcus walked past his old sedan, pausing beside a pearl-white McLaren. He ran his hand over the hood, the car's reflection glowing against his calm expression. "This," Marcus said, his voice steady but commanding, "is the truth. $20 million worth of truth. I don't flaunt it every day because I don't need to. But since you judged me by what I drove, I thought you deserved to see what I really own." The crowd erupted in gasps and whispers. "He owns all of them. Is he famous? That's insane." Daniels blinked rapidly, his confidence crumbling. "Wait, too. These are yours," he stammered. Marcus tilted his head. "Yes, every single one. While you were busy mocking what you thought you knew about me, I was building something you couldn't imagine." The officer glanced at the lineup of cars, his hand tightening on his belt. For the first time that day, he had no clever words, no smug laugh, and Marcus wasn't finished. He had one final move that would leave the officer humiliated in front of everyone watching. The laugh ended, but the lesson had just begun. The parking lot had turned into a live show. Strangers were recording, kids were cheering, and engines purred like lions ready to strike. Officer Daniels stood frozen, his smugness burned away by the gleam of $20 million worth of horsepower. Marcus adjusted his watch and took a step closer. His calm voice cut through the murmurs. "You mocked me for driving a car that didn't impress you. But let me teach you something. Officer, real wealth doesn't need to scream. It can whisper, still be louder than all the noise around it." The officer swallowed hard, trying to recover his composure. I was just joking," he stammered, his voice shaky. "Didn't mean anything by it." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Joking? You used your uniform to humiliate me in public? You laughed while others joined in? It's not a joke. That's arrogance." The crowd murmured in agreement. Someone shouted, "Yeah, tell him." Another added, "Respect people no matter what they drive." Marcus gestured toward his old sedan. "That car got me through years when I had nothing. It was my companion when I was working 3 jobs. While people like you judged me, I was working, building, investing, dreaming bigger than your insults." He then motioned toward the lineup of supercars. "And this is the result. Not to prove anything to you, but to remind everyone here, ever judge a person by what you see, because the same man you laughed at today, it might be the man who owns more than you could ever imagine." The crowd erupted in applause. Phones kept recording, capturing every word, every gleam of the cars. Daniel's face flushed red. For the first time, the power was no longer in his badge, but in Marcus's truth. He tried to step back toward his cruiser, but the crowd's eyes followed him, unimpressed. Marcus walked toward his McLaren, keys in hand. Before getting in, he glanced back at the officer one last time. "Oh, an officer," he said with a calm smile. "Next time you see someone driving an old car, remember this moment. Respect costs nothing but arrogance. It might just cost you your pride." With that, Marcus slid into the driver's seat. The McLaren's engine roared to life, shaking the ground. The supercars followed him out of the lot in a convoy, their exhausts thundering like victory drums. The crowd cheered, phones flashing, as Officer Daniels stood alone, mocked not by words, but by the unforgettable truth he had just witnessed. The end. And from that day forward, no one who saw it ever judged a person by their car again.